Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. This is the podcast where we talk about your personal and professional growth, and I share stories, insights, and practical steps to help you grow. And today we're diving into mindsets, the fundamental attitudes and beliefs that influence how we approach life's challenges and everything in between. So, if you enjoy this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, download, and share. And I'm excited to have Dr. Alan Chu with us to explore how we can develop a mindset that leads to personal and professional growth. And Dr. Chu, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your background in sports psychology and explain a little bit of your passion in helping people harness the power of their minds.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so to talk about my background in sports psychology, I probably need to go back to when I was younger. As an athlete, I competed in 5 different sports. I was a pretty high-level athlete, particularly in table tennis. So I basically have that first-hand experience of how much your mind influences your body. When I got nervous before a really important match, I tend to kind of choke or I make mistakes, that didn't go that well for my table tennis game. And particularly at one of the national team trial, I thought I might have had a chance to make it to the junior national team. But unfortunately, I got a bit nervous and I overthink about things. I lost my first match in duels. If you don't know much about table tennis, when you lose in your last game in duels, that means you're lost by 2 points in the whole match, basically. So that got me kind of feeling very depressed and very disappointed at myself. And then I knew that I got to learn something different to help me with my game. So fast forward, I finished my undergrad in psychology in Hong Kong, where I'm from. And then I applied to different schools in the United States. I went to the University of Missouri for my master's degree in counseling psychology with an emphasis in sports psychology. So in that master's program, that was my first time getting exposed to many different ideas in sports psychology. And I can only see myself doing it forever at that point. So I decided to apply to different PhD programs, and I got accepted to the University of North Texas. And that's actually how I met Josh. We had a good time there. I was studying my PhD and also organizing a table tennis club. And then after that, I worked as a professor at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay for 5 years. As a professor, not only doing sports psychology myself, but also teaching it to both graduate and undergraduate students. And in these past 2 years, I've been at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro to do similar things, but only with the graduate student. So my background there involves a lot of different things. That includes research on motivation, research on how coaches impact athletes' mindset and motivation. More recently, research on how mindfulness and self-compassion can help athletes with their motivation and resilience. That's something I'm really passionate about these days. Other than research, I work with athletes regularly, from youth level all the way to professional level. A lot of the time now, I work with high school athletes who want to get recruited for college athletics, and also work with the parents in that process as well. And then, like I said, I also do teaching. So my role really includes a lot of different things related to sports psychology. And actually, other than just sport, I also do some coaching with non-sport population. Knowing that sports psychology is actually applicable to everyone's life, really.
I love that, and I try to make this podcast something that is applicable to the lives of all the listeners, because I do understand that there are going to be some people listening to this podcast that aren't athletes. And I was thinking about this earlier. Can you believe that it's almost been 10 years since we've met? Because, like Dr. Chu said, we met through the table tennis club that he created over at the University of North Texas. And he was very welcoming, and his leadership at that time was very inspiring to me. And during that time, whether or not you know what, Dr. Chu, you have poured a lot into me and have um, made me aspire to be a better leader. And so when I thought of creating an episode about mindsets and motivation, I definitely wanted to have you on board. And yeah, I was thinking about that earlier, that it's been almost 10 years. It will be 10 years in, I don't know, 8 months, I believe. So it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's time go by fast. Definitely, it's quite a while. Since we met in person. I think probably last time we met in person was like 6 to 8 years ago, or maybe longer. About eight, yeah,
2017.
maybe. Right. Yeah, yeah. Definitely would love to be able to see you in person soon. But I'm grateful to be able to connect this way. Virtually, to connect both personally and professionally. That's amazing. That we can do that.
Well, let's go ahead and start with the basics here. You and I understand what a mindset is, but um, why would you say that mindsets are so important in sports psychology, and how do they impact overall performance?
Mm-hmm. So, like I said earlier, with my experience, from the first-hand experience, I knew how my mind impact my body. So if you think about sports psychology or sport in general, how you need to perform and compete is through your body. You got to execute what you have practiced, and you have to execute really well at a high level. I mean, we all saw that at the recent Olympics in Paris, how much finesse there need to be, how much techniques, how much strategy, how much power, speed, all those good stuff that athletes show us. But that cannot be done with a good mindset. So I think that's why when we have a mindset that is helpful, conducive to your performance, that really help you with your success in sport, but also success in your life as well. But when we look at the other way, meaning that if our mindset affects our mindset is unhelpful, that kind of block us from being able to achieve the success that we want, both in sport, in our life. But I think if we talk about sports specifically, your mind influence your body. That's just one quick way that we can see how impactful it is.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So take notes, people. But leaning more towards the everyday life. So for those of us who may not be athletes, or if you're like me, not a good athlete, how can understanding mindsets still be beneficial?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can tell you some examples. I teach both graduate and undergraduate students, as I mentioned. So I've probably taught thousands of students by now. So what I have seen is that when students have a good mindset, meaning that they try to grow, they try to learn skills, and they are not afraid to fail, and they are willing to put out effort into helping them to achieve the best outcome in their own terms, they are more likely to work harder, and they're more likely to be able to actually achieve them through the effort and preparation and the attitude that they have. Versus student that I've seen who might come into class already thinking, well, I don't know why I'm in this class. I don't really think that I can be successful. I've been always bad at math, or I'm always bad at this and that. Then before they even begin studying, like we know that physiologically, that just shut down the mind and the body already, meaning that they are less likely to learn and grow. And end up that's the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? When you feel like you can't do it, you put less effort into it, and then you also really can get a good grade or good outcome as a student. Now, like I said, I also do some coaching. So I work with a lot of employees and managers who are in maybe engineering, who might be in the Air Force, all different type of industry. So what I see is that if they feel like they are capable of being successful in their own job, but also being successful in being a leader and working with their team, they can more likely to make that happen because they already have the belief before they start taking the action. Again, going back to the mind and body, if you don't really believe in doing, you don't even believe in yourself, or you don't believe in your team at all, and you don't see the possibility of being able to make something work, then you're not going to make it work. So it just tells us that other than sports, how important our mindset is to any area of any area of your life for both performance, but I would say for your well-being in general as well.
There's a quote that I really love, and it's, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. It was said by Henry Ford. Hanging on to something that you mentioned was academic performance. So Carl Dweck, he was a doctor of educational psychology. He published a work called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, where he claimed that research shows that students with a growth mindset perform up to 20% better academically than those with a fixed mindset. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So first thing, sorry for correcting you, but it's a she. Since Carol Dweck is a woman psychologist, so just
Okay.
want a quick correction there. So I have used Carol Dweck's work a lot. I read her book on mindset, all the studies that she had done. That completely makes sense, and I think that's not just my thought. We know from solid scientific evidence and all the experiences that I have that when someone have a growth mindset, they're going to perform better because, like I said, they're more open to learn and they are more willing to put out effort into doing something versus when someone have a fixed mindset. Just to define it a little bit, growth mindset, meaning that you believe your intelligence and your ability can grow over time with effort and preparation. A fixed mindset means that you believe your intelligence and your ability are fixed based on your genetics. They are come with your inborn ability. That's fixed mindset. So when you have a fixed mindset, then you're going to be less likely to put out effort because you are feeling like, well, I can probably either do it or I cannot because of my natural God-given ability. So why even worth trying hard if I'm not good at it? And what happens is that even those who are talented, what happens is that when they fail one or two times, they also start giving up. So I think that's why we see those who have a growth mindset, no matter in academic or athletics or in the work setting, they're going to be outperforming those who have a fixed mindset. And I want to also clarify that it's not either or. It's not dichotomous. That's like a spectrum. Someone can have majority growth mindset, a little bit fixed mindset, or maybe they have growth mindset in sports, but more of like a fixed mindset in school. So we have to think about those dynamics and dimensions for different areas as well.
I think that's a really important distinction to make because people tend to get put into a box, right? You either have a growth mindset or you have a fixed mindset. They don't think about it as a spectrum or, okay, it's something that you might be or have a fixed mindset in the foods that you try. But in opportunities at work, you can be growth minded and very open to feedback. And so for people that recognize that there is an area where they have a fixed mindset, how can someone move from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? And where would you recommend that they start?
Mm-hmm. So going back to Dr. Carol Dweck, that's one simple and yet quite effective technique to start with. And I want to make sure I emphasize that this is to start with. It's not an all be all strategy. So you start with the power of yet. So what you talk about is that when someone have a fixed mindset, you start telling yourself you are not able to do this yet. Maybe meaning that, oh, I am not getting the A grade yet, or I'm not able to become a manager yet, or I'm not able to make the Olympic trial yet. So what that does, interestingly, there's a lot of good neuroscience research showing that when you say the word yet for things that you have yet to be able to do, that actually activate the part of the brain for learning. So meaning that you activate your ability and emotion to wanting to learn and grow versus shutting that brain region down. So we can simply reframe things that we cannot do as we can't do this yet. That would be the first step. Or maybe reframing your perspective by thinking, okay, I'm not good at this yet. However, if I try A, B, C, and I do X, Y, Z, I'm going to be getting closer to my goal. That reframing actually have been shown to be really powerful when we talk about the mind and the mindset. Now, I said that's not end all be all, meaning that you also need to take action, right? You cannot just say that, oh, I cannot do this yet. I will be successful later and not do anything with it. So to go back to maybe a sports example. So as a table tennis player, maybe I cannot make the national team trial yet. Then I have to analyze, okay, what are my strengths that I'm going to try to capitalize? And what are my areas of growth that I need to focus on to set some concrete goals to help me take some steps, one step at a time, to get closer to achieving our goal. So I think the goal setting and being able to build a good habit to follow through with your goals going to be the final steps that can help you not only turn that to a growth mindset, but also achieve success eventually.
I think that's really powerful because it's so simple, it's so practical, but it can have profound implications, right? And not only that, but it ties the mindset into the motivation, and you can say, okay, well, I can't do this yet, but like you said, if there's no action, if there's no follow through, there are no results. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And so when it comes to talking about specific mindsets, things like optimism and gratitude, resilience, what are some specific mindsets that you would say are absolutely essential for achieving any kind of long-term growth and success, whether that's in sports, whether that's in life?
So I would say growth mindset would probably be one of the most critical mindset that's also very evidence-based. But sometimes I also use other terms to relay the information to athletes that I work with. For example, I will talk about having a resilience mindset, meaning that how can you bounce back from mistake or failure, from setback. So that's a resilience mindset. In sport, I also talk about, I think that as more like a mentality rather than mindset. I would say the word win, W-I-N. So it doesn't stand for winning, but it stands for what's important now. So W-I-N, what's important now. So what's particularly helpful about that mentality or mindset is about performance. So that's usually done when you are competing, or when you're delivering a presentation, or maybe when you are taking an exam. Why I mentioned that is because so oftentimes when you're performing, you have some pressure and worries about the future. You have a lot of the what ifs, I just worked with a golfer right before our call here, and she had all the what if about, oh, this is my senior year. What if I don't make it to the next round? What if I make a mistake and I upset my team, my teammate, and my coach? So when you have to worry about the future, or when we get stuck about the past, thinking that, oh, last time I just failed this, last time I didn't do well, then that take away your attention and ability to do well in the moment. So that's why I talk a lot about win mentality for competition and for any type of performances, that people need to be present and be mindful in the moment rather than getting stuck in the past or the future. So those are the most common one with the resilience mindset and the win mentality or win mindset, if you will, that I talk about very often.
Yeah, I think you had told me about the win mindset a long time ago, but it's so good to revisit that and to hear you unpack that and put it in such a practical way. And another piece that you had touched on is just how limiting our own minds can be. Our minds are a powerful thing. Like we said, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And so I don't know if you've listened to any of my previous podcasts or anything, but I've developed what I call the 4 stages of stuck. So the very first stage is that people just they don't want to grow. They don't have any desire to grow at all. They don't understand why it's important. They typically just float through life. The second stage is that people are afraid to look themselves in the mirror and admit where they actually are in life. The third stage is that they know where they are in life, but they make excuses to stay where they are. And this is where I feel a lot of people fall into. And the fourth stage is that they want to grow, they just don't know how. And while it could be argued that the fourth stage of stuck could be mindset related because the availability of resources to go out and to find that the first three are definitely mindset related. Not wanting to grow, not admitting where you really are in life, and making excuses to stay where you are. And so I think it's really important to note that your mindset can be very limiting of what it is that you can accomplish. And so how do you help athletes identify and shift limiting beliefs?
So there are many different strategies that consultants or psychologists use. And I think one of the very first way that I do this is through reflection. Because when you reflect, that enhances your self-awareness. Going back to your 4 stages of stuck, I think the first 3 all require a heightened level of self-awareness, right? They have to understand why it's important to have that desire. It's important for them to understand why they are afraid. It's important to understand why they have excuses. So I think reflection is very critical, and how I do that could be through asking my client to do some journaling. So, hey, this upcoming week, let's say we are working on being afraid to take the next step, to talk to your coach or talk to your boss about something that you really want to do. Then let's track what's going through in your mind this upcoming week. Track every single conversation that you have with your coach, your boss, and really get an understanding of your thoughts, your behaviors, your feelings, and also your responses about what you do. So meaning that, okay, if I am afraid to talk to my boss, I am going to be trying to avoid any conversation. I'm going to be not speaking up at meetings. And I noticed that actually decreased my opportunity for being able to get promoted. So kind of having them label those, but also think about, is there any story that's telling you that you shouldn't speak up? Sometimes that could come from trauma, that could come from their culture. So helping them connect that behavior, thoughts, and feeling, as well as the roots of those things, kind of help them get a better awareness of, why I have that fear? Why am I making excuses? Why do I have not desire for this? So that's one way. The other way could also through visualization. So I often ask athletes to think about their best performance in the past, as well as their worst performance in the past. Again, tell me how your thoughts and feelings are different, how your mindset was different before and during the race or during the match, whatever sport it is. And then in the process, walking through the differences between their best self and the worst self in the performance, I think they are likely to enhance that self-awareness. And I asked them, okay, so you notice that difference. So what would you want to do from here? So I never teach them and tell them, okay, you do A, B, C, D, E, because it doesn't help to just tell people exactly what they do. I got to give them autonomy, but also ability to be self-aware so that they are growing that on their own terms, and they're going to be having that growth in a more sustainable manner. So, but that's kind of how I begin with my approach of helping someone shifting their mindset.
I want to reference two studies. One of them is about self-reflection, as you mentioned. So there was a study that was done by the University of Pennsylvania, and it showed that individuals who do practice self-reflection report a 20% increase in satisfaction with their personal growth. So there is statistical evidence that self-reflection is a valuable piece of personal growth and in affecting your mindset. But also, research also indicates that athletes who do engage in visualization improve performance by 15% on average. And that's according to the Journal of Applied Sports Psychology. And you mentioned a little while ago resilience, which resilience, according to the APA, is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. So when difficulty arises, how do you navigate that? How are you flexible through that? And without question, resilience is something that's important to personal and professional growth. And that's in both sports and in life. So, Dr. Chu, can you explain resilience and why it's so essential to mindset development?
Resilience definitely help with the growth mindset, because when we talk about resilience, that means that everyone's gonna face setback, failure, mistakes in whatever you do. Even the best of the best, right? Roger Federer, Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, you name it, right? They all have gone through challenges, struggle physically, mentally. So when you're able to have that resilience that you need, you are more likely to, I think just exactly what you mentioned, be flexible and bounce back rather than getting stuck in, oh, why me, woe in me, that type of mentality. Instead, they're able to quickly adjust not only their mindset, a mindset is a big part of it, but also taking action into what they need to do to prepare for their next race, next tournament, next presentation, next meeting, wherever next that's going to be for them. So resilience is a essential formula, essential ingredient in the recipe. Just like when you want to bake a cake, you got to have the flour, the sugar, the things that you really need. That's a big part of the success. And resilience, mixing into the mindset, mixing into your action, kind of create that formula and the recipe for success. Super, super critical because no one can avoid it. Everybody got to face setback one point or another.
So when thinking about resilience, sure, there's flexibility within that, and to prepare for the next time that a similar situation arises. If someone has a difficult time staying level-headed in stressful situations, whether that be sports, whether that be life, what is just one practical step that somebody could take to becoming more level-headed in stressful situations?
It's literally just breathe. That's like the number one strategy. that influence your body to be calm. And then when your body is more relaxed and calm, your mind is going to be more calm. I thought maybe we can all do this together. If you are an audience listening, of course, if you are driving, probably do not do this right now, focus on the road. But if you are not too busy in the moment, let's practice this together. What I want you to do is to put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. And we're going to start taking a few deep breaths. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth. Again, breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth. Now, a lot of you might be using your chest when you breathe. That's why I asked you to put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. So if you feel like your chest is expanding while you breathe in, you have to do the opposite, meaning that when you breathe in, your belly, your stomach should be expanding. Because from the physiology standpoint, we know that that's how you get a relaxation response. So let's do that several times again, focusing on your belly expanding when you breathe in, okay? So breathe in through your nose, expanding your belly. Breathe out through your mouth, your belly contracting. Breathe in, your belly expanding. Breathe out, your belly contracting. We'll do one more time. Breathe in, your belly expanding. Breathe out, your belly contracting. So that's a simple way of breathing that helps you with relaxing your body and your mind. There are so many different types of breathing, but if you would like extra relaxation, keep in mind that a longer exhale is going to help you achieve that. When you have a longer exhale, that activates the parasympathetic system of the body. That is for rest and digest, which means relaxation.
Interesting. I never thought about the length of the exhale affecting your ability to relax. I'm gonna have to do some more research on that. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoy following Andrew Huberman, which is a neuroscientist in Stanford. He had a podcast. He is a scientist. He talked about lots of research, and he kind of break it down, those scientific details in a pretty easily digestible way about why the longer exhale would help you. It's related to the ratio of carbon dioxide and oxygen. You're getting more oxygen in your body, but without getting into too much into the weed of things, that's a quick reminder that you can have exhale longer and breathe.
And for those that are interested, and Dr. Zhu, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Huberman Labs, right? That's his podcast?
Correct. Yeah, and he has also YouTube video that are shorter than his episodes are like 2 hours long or 3 hours long. It might be a bit long for some of you to listen to, but he has a lot of shorter YouTube clips that are 6 minutes, 8 minutes of the highlight from the podcast episode. But you're right, the Huberman Lab is the podcast.
So my word of the year is health. And so I've been watching a lot of his content, just trying to live a healthy lifestyle. And so I'm going to have to find the episode where he talks about breathing. And something that you had talked about when we were talking about reflection is the importance of self-awareness. And within the stages of stuck, self-awareness is something that's very important. I would highly agree with you. And when it comes to developing a positive mindset, what practices can help people to increase their self-awareness outside of just journaling self-reflection? Would you say that visualization plays any piece in that?
Visualization could play a role, but I almost want to say is the opposite direction make more sense. What I mean by that is when someone is more aware, they're able to visualize better things. Because when we mention visualize, what happens is that some athletes that I work with, they will actually visualize failure. they will imagine having a fixed mindset. So if they are not having that self-awareness, the visualization itself actually doesn't work that well. It could work for some people, but I would be somewhat cautious to suggest visualization as the first step for gaining awareness. So to answer your question, other than journaling and reflecting on best worst experiences or performances, asking people for feedback is really crucial. So as an athlete, what I normally suggest they do is to ask, hey, let's just go around every single teammate on your team that you trust and ask them about what is your strength that you're good at and what's your weaknesses or areas of improvement. And then also ask your coach, maybe ask other people that you trust if you want to focus on things that you need to improve in sport. For people who are a manager, there's an assessment called 360 assessment. Basically, the manager will be sending a feedback form or survey to people above them, people at the same manager level, and people below them. Again, to get feedback on what I do well, what I need to improve, or maybe other couple areas that they want feedback on. Could be communication, could be emotion regulation, any area that they want to improve. So I think when you're able to get that 360, that's why it's called 360, right? Because you are not only in your little bubble, you are getting all different angles of how people perceive you, but also maybe how you perceive yourself in your strengths and weaknesses so that you can be more aware what you need to improve and what your mindset looks like to you, but also to other people as well.
And I think it's really important to ask for that feedback. And I know that there's a company out there that does a good job of it. It's called Gallup. So they're not a paid sponsor or anything like that. Gallup's a pretty big name throughout a lot of industries. And when it comes to feedback and providing feedback, I'd say that they do a really good job of that. And in order to ask feedback or ask for feedback and receive healthy feedback, you have to surround yourself by people that actually care about telling you the truth. People say, oh, well, you tell me hard things, so that means that you don't like me. No, if people aren't telling you hard things, there's a bigger problem. And social support needs to be healthy. If you haven't listened to my episode on creating a healthy circle, please go take a listen to that. That's going to help you quite a bit with this. So how would you say that someone should go about building a supportive network?
Yeah, I think I can give example in different area because I feel like it's going to be a little bit different based on what domains we are talking about here. I mean, there are some similarity, but also some differences. So for athletes, in order to build that network, I think the first and foremost is to find the right environment for them to be in. Probably not just the athlete, but also employees. You want to be able to go into a culture and environment that is not toxic. If you're going into a toxic environment, it's going to be hard to build that healthy network and the support that you need. So I think that's the first and foremost. I think especially for athletes, because your performance is going to depend upon the coach, going to depend on your teammate. So if you're going to be discriminated, you're going to be abused, that's not going to be helpful in any way. So finding the right environment, the right team will be the first step. The next step, when you're in a healthy environment already, I think you have to find ways that you can connect with different type of people. So I think this is more across the board. As an athlete, think about things that you're in common with your teammate to start a conversation. Don't wait until the other person to talk to you. Be the first one to initiate and find out some commonality there. I think that's particularly crucial when you're on a team that you work with very closely. But for anyone who are more independent in maybe as a student or more independent as an entrepreneur, then try and go to events that allow you to do that. Go to networking events, go to workshops, professional development opportunities, in person or online, to have that conversation. So I think that looks different than those who already have a natural team that you have to do the extra step to reach out and do more. What I'm trying to say is to find opportunity to connect with more people who are more like-minded. One more step after that is when we talk about building a network and connection, it's not just knowing the people, but it's actually about finding a deeper connection for how you can help them and how they can help you. So I think in your mind, you have to be clear about, okay, what kind of relationship do I want to build with my coach, my boss, this teammate, that teammate, because they may serve different roles. One of them may serve as an informational support. Someone may have all the good insight. They have all the good information about all the things that you can do to help you improve your game. Then you go to that person for advice, but that person may not be supporting you emotionally because they may be not able to provide that support, or maybe you don't feel the connection with them. So you have to find another teammate, another person who can give you that emotional support when you have a setback, when you are upset about performance, so that you can be honest with them that way. So all that said, you have to be clear about first reach out, making the connection, but then what kind of support you want from them, but also knowing that you have to give them something, right? What kind of support you're going to give them in that process as well. So knowing that there's a two-way street, and it's easier said than done. It takes time being able to commit to just having the conversation over and over to build that relationship is huge. I can kind of go back to the time that we were at UNT, as a table tennis team. That was a big thing that we have to, maybe not only play together, but we have to grab dinner, we have to have meetings, find opportunity to connect, travel to tournaments, so that when you're on the car ride, you find a way to actually get that natural opportunity to get a deeper relationship rather than just working together. Because we know that if you just work, that's not going to build your relationship naturally.
One thing that you said that I want to just clarify, he said that you want to surround yourself by like-minded people. Please hear me whenever I say that like-minded people doesn't mean people that 100% think the same way that you do. If you're going to be in any community that is growth oriented, you're going to need somebody to challenge the way that you think in at least one aspect of your life. And it's also really important to recognize that sometimes the network that you build, it can be supportive of you for a season. It can be healthy for a season, but the moment that it stops becoming supportive, it's important to be able to let go of that network. And I feel that that's so hard for people to do. They have the tendency to make excuses to stay in something that is no longer healthy. Is this something that you would agree with, disagree with?
Oh, I agree with 100%. First of all, I appreciate you clarifying that. I definitely don't want people to misinterpret my message about like-minded people. It doesn't mean people who look like you, or it doesn't mean people who think the same way with you as you every time. But it's more about people who also have that growth mindset, also people who have that vision of wanting to grow and wanting to achieve things for the better good. With that said, you need people who have diverse skill set. You need people who have diverse perspective in that process for sure. So thank you for clarifying that. And I agree that when you find that you are on a team that doesn't have the same vision or doesn't seem to be able to help you grow, sometimes you just need to let it go in a healthy way, in a respectful way. I'm not asking you to just one day quit and abandon them without letting them know and just ghost them. But there are ways that you can kind of making sure there's the right timing for you to let them know that, hey, I appreciate the opportunity that you have given me. However, this is a moment that I feel like I need something a little bit different, so that you are able to be respectfully let them go, and finding a network that might be worth a little bit more of your priority and time to focus on so that you can be a better version of yourself.
Thanks for the insight, Dr. Chu. Backtracking a little bit, I want to focus in this moment on the action, right? We've got mindset, we've got action. Are there any specific habits or routines that can strengthen beneficial mindsets over time?
I think there's a lot, there's a lot of things that people can do in their routine to really help them be productive. Do you mind asking that question one more time? Because I want to make sure I tackle everything that you mentioned. Or if you want to clarify with more specific direction, you can do that as well. Because I do think of a lot of different things that people can do in their routine to help them. But let's ask that question. And if you want to get a specific direction, go ahead and do that.
Okay. So the question here is, are there specific habits or routines that can strengthen beneficial mindsets, growth mindsets over time? So things maybe like gratitude or setting daily goals, just practical pieces that people can use to strengthen their mindset over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think there's a lot that could be done. I think the breathing technique that we did was one big part of it. When you have a good habit of being able to pause and be in the present moment rather than worrying about the future, that help you build that beneficial mindset. Yeah, journaling, I feel like I kind of repeating myself, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is to reflect, to be able to notice areas that you did well, congratulate things that you're doing well already, so that you have that confidence boost. But also going back to action, right? What are the actions you need to take to get even better at what you're doing? I think that could be done in the form of daily ritual or weekly ritual. I do that every week. At the end of the week, that's an approach I call well, better, learn. So you can think about what you did well throughout the week. Maybe you can write down 3 things that you did well. For those of you who don't enjoy journaling or writing as much, you can think about that in your mind, or visualize that a little bit, in your mind about what you did well. And then 3 things that what you can do better or improve. And being really concrete about, okay, not just saying I need to improve my communication, I need to improve my confidence, but how do you go about improving them? Saying that, okay, I need to improve my communication by finding an opportunity to speak up at a meeting next week. So make it more concrete. And then learn will be reflecting on what are new things that you learn about yourself, new things that you learn about the world. So I think that gives you a sense of curiosity. Curiosity is such a key skill that we all need to keep growing, right? If we one day feel like, oh, we are so good already, then we lose that curiosity, then we are not going to keep growing as an athlete, as a person. So maintain that curiosity by reflecting on what you have learned. So I think this go a long way as part of the routine. And there's so much more. I think one more thing I would share here would be having a good tracker, maybe a habits tracker, just to track all the habit that you did this past week. Because you might say, oh, I want to work out 3 times a week. But did you actually do that? So when you have a habit tracker, you're tracking your daily goal, your weekly goal, your monthly goal, then you're able to get a more clear idea about where you did well, but also where you need to keep growing from there to have a more beneficial mindset, but also be able to execute your plan a little bit better as well.
And it's a good idea to share your plan with somebody else if you feel open enough to do that, and have some healthy level of accountability. Somebody that's going to hold you accountable towards those things. And what we can sometimes be our worst enemy by trying to hold ourselves accountable. And that's very evident. And people who try to set New Year's resolutions and then 3 months down the line, they forget everything that it is that they set out to accomplish in the year. And so being able to track that, like you said, I think is a really healthy thing to do. And we have a hard time staying motivated with everything going on in our lives all the time. Priorities shift. And so I want to touch a little bit on the motivation, how to stay motivated. So how do you teach athletes to stay motivated during tough times, and how would that apply to people in just everyday life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, setting goals would be a big part of it. I think when we talk about setting goals, a lot of time people think about, oh, I want to win the gold medal. I want to get the promotion. I want to get 4.0 GPA. So when I mention goals, yes, that's important. But how can we not focus on the outcome? Instead, how can we focus on the process that lead to you achieving those goals? Because we know that when we only look at the outcome, our motivation is very short, very fleeting, short-lived. Because when you don't win the gold medal, when you don't get a 4.0 GPA, you don't get the grade, the promotion that you want, then you suddenly lose that motivation. Because motivation have to be internal in order for you to keep that sustainable motivation that I really emphasize, rather than the short-lived external motivation. So when you set goals that are internal about what you need to do in the process, meaning that almost going to that habit tracker a little bit, I'm going to be focusing on these 3 things that I want to accomplish this week. And this is why I'm important. This is why they are important to me. We are more likely to be sticking with it. We know that goals energize us to keep us motivated. But then also when we are able to be more in control, right? Outcome goals, you cannot control it. You can't control whether you get the gold medal, the promotion or not. You might have some level of influence, but at the end of the day, your boss determine it, or your company determine it. Your competitor may beat you in a competition. But if you're able to follow through with your process goal of, okay, I'm going to practice 3 times a week. I'm going to be doing this exercise however many times a week, then you are naturally getting that motivation of, well, I'm accomplishing this and I'm actually seeing my growth. Then that get me motivated to keep going from here. With that being said, your goals have to be SMART, meaning that they should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based or time-bound, the acronym SMART, so that you're able to keep yourself accountable for accomplishing those, by tracking them and hopefully accomplishing them to keep up with the motivation.
And I love the fact that you talked about just taking goals and breaking them down into bite-sized pieces. Mm-hmm. I would also say that when you reach those small wins, you should celebrate those. You should do something for yourself in those moments. Please don't do anything controversial to your goal. If you're trying to lose weight and you lose a pound, don't go eat a cake, right? Do something that is still in line with the direction that you're going, but makes you feel a sense of fulfillment, and be grateful for where you are. And so how would you say that gratitude influences mindset and motivation?
Yeah, I'm grateful that you bring up gratitude, no pun intended. That's something that's very important for all of us to do. And that's something that I've actually looked into a little bit during COVID. Gratitude definitely influenced your mindset to be more growth oriented. I did a study during COVID. When COVID hit in March of 2020, I was teaching classes that shift from in person to online completely. And of course, we know what happened, right? All the students have to go home. They can really see their classmates. They lose their social support on campus or in their daily life. So what I look into is when I implement gratitude practice in the online setting once a week, what they may impact students' mindset and ability to cope with stress, and also their level of resilience. I actually have published one study on that, looking at college students, especially women, who did that once a week. They, both from the survey data and the interview data, tell me that they're able to be more resilient throughout that time. They're able to not necessarily have less stress, because I think the stress is there, but they're able to manage the stress in a healthier way, would be what I say. Meaning that they have a mindset of, okay, that's stress, but I can manage it. I can see that stress as a challenge for me to grow, an opportunity for me to learn and experience better way to cope and better way to do things and be a stronger human being, so to speak. And I think I see that over and over when I use this with athletes or students. When the gratitude is there, you can't really complain about things as much. When you're grateful for just the opportunity to be in college, the opportunity to get education, the opportunity to meet people who support you, then it's like almost you can't really complain about all the classes that you're taking, all the homework that you have to do, all the things that are because they completely contradict what you are just grateful for. So that will allow people to have that growth mindset, but also feeling more connected to people. When you're grateful, you are able to see, oh yeah, Josh just did this to me 10 years ago. I'm really grateful that I'm able to play table tennis with him and have this connection. Or yeah, that teacher did this one thing that seems so small, and yet I need to be grateful for this. So I think there's a better sense of connection and belonging when we do that as well.
Well, Dr. Alan Shu, I really want to say thank you, express some gratitude here for joining the show, for saying yes. I know that you've got a very busy schedule, and so this is not something that I take lightly. I believe that you provided a whole lot of value for the listeners about mindsets, about motivation, and provided some actionable steps and shared some stories. And you had mentioned that you had published a work, but I'm curious, where can our listeners find more about your work?
Yeah, so there's different spaces that you can look for my work. So if you type UNCG, so that stands for University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Again, UNCG, and then Alan Chu. You type it in Google, you should find my profile, but also there's a page called NC Docs. So that's the web page that hosts all the articles that I have published. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I often share some of my publication in a more easily digestible way on LinkedIn. If you type Alan Chu, UNCG on LinkedIn, you will likely find me. And I think my username is Alan Chu Sport Psych, SPORTPSYCH. So Alan Chu Sport Psych. You will find me that way. I also have an account on X, formerly Twitter. I'm not really too active, but if you want to follow me, you can go on X, and my username is at Dr. Alan Chu. So DRALANCHU. Those are probably the best places that you can look for my information. You will see my email on my UNCG profile as well if you want to email me and connect that way.
Well, hey, Dr. Chu, thank you so much once again for being on the show, and to all of the listeners, expressing a little bit more gratitude here. But thanks so much for tuning in. Catch you next time. Let's grow.